Hinnak, Yapha, Rayati, Hinnak, Yapha. That's what God says, the king says to the queen in the Song of Songs, and to you and me. It means, look at you, beautiful, my beloved, just look at you. When was the last time you really, truly heard from God? And when you heard it, did you believe it? I mean, we're so messed up, our midbrains are so twisted up by this fallen place, right? But there is hope, and that's what the Song of Songs is all about. So hey ladies, sisters in Christ, Dr. Bill Sinyard here with God's love for the unlovable. We're going through the greatest gospel presentation of God's love for the unlovable in the Old Testament for everyone, but in particular for women. The queen is a picture, a metaphor, a trope for who we are when God's love for the unlovable finds us. And it doesn't leave us there. And as we're going to see, it's transformative more than we know. Just to be clear, she is us where God finds us. Today, tomorrow, the next day, to one degree or another, we're strangled in shame. So you know what? Let's see what God's transforming love can do. Welcome to God's love for the unlovable. Here's Song of Songs 1:7. The queen is talking to the king. Tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends? Well, let's see if we can unpack that. To graze actually has a sexual double entendre. The king was certainly not out doing the shepherding thing, right? That would be like Mark Zuckerberg trimming the hedges at Facebook. No, it's better imagined as a euphemism for sex, for intimacy. Shepherds had a pretty bad reputation. You probably knew that. Remember, Israel is a semi-arid desert. They would take long midday siestas. Prostitutes would do a booming business at the tents of shepherds at midday. So this dialogue is kind of an emotional venting of her fears, her suspicions, her paranoia. So socially at the bottom of the food chain are the shepherds, but below them are the objects that they use to please themselves, right? The prostitutes. So the queen's gentle inner murmur of self-reproach is just raging. She blames him for making her feel like a prostitute. I mean, it's kind of a Freudian slip, right? Because she is the one who's been sexually active. In Mesopotamian wedding songs, the shepherd husband figure really does give the bride something to worry about, okay? But this conversation between the queen and the king is inappropriate. It's totally rude, it's demeaning and disrespectful to the king, his name and character. You wouldn't be surprised if he just says, off with her head. So first observation. First of all, she's speaking to the faithful great lover king. And he's standing right there with immense love pouring out towards her as she is. But her idols betray her. They refuse to let her see her real value, how she is seen by the king. So it's not a good feeling in the queen's head, right? She can either turn to despising herself and shame and guilt for pushing people away, blaming herself, or most likely she's going to externalize and blame others. Eugene Peterson coined the phrase paranoid loneliness, a euphemism for one of the works of the flesh in Galatians 5. The paranoid lonely will hurt others, push them away, act out in order to protect themselves. And the idea is that I'd better hurt them before they hurt me, all subconscious. And then when they react and pull away, right, the paranoid lonely will blame them for the breakup and for her loneliness and isolation. Again, it's always about her. Seems like a good strategy on the surface if there's real danger, but the secondary consequence is she's isolated now. She feels lonely now. And do you know which work of the flesh Peterson was speaking of? It was for hatred. It makes sense. So what is her first fear cycle reaction? You know, the fight, flight, or freeze? She blames him. Boy, she goes right for fight. She accuses him of being unrighteous. Again, irony. It's a brain thing. Not necessarily evil. It's her fears are turning to suspicion, which turns to false, inappropriate accusations. And lesser kings would have had her beheaded. This king allows the ranting. Second observation, no one would mistake the queen for a prostitute, right? Everyone else is giving her honor due her title alone. The only one with an identity problem is her, or me, or you. She's mistaking herself for a prostitute. Again, Freudian slip. This is the beloved bride of the great lover king. It's a reflection of her own fractured identity. Is this making sense? All right, so let me come to her aid. She is emotionally and relationally beat up. Nothing has hurt her more than relationships. She just can't be comfortable with the lover's love. And it's a brain thing. Every love that she has known has betrayed her, used her, criticized her, frankly treated her like a prostitute. And probably an exaggeration, but hey, where there's smoke, there's fire. So what does she know about love, much less the love of a righteous king? So there she is, fractured at a deep level, insecure, tentative, cautious, unsure of herself, emotionally afraid, terrified, constricted with double-stringed duct tape. And here, as in other places in the song, the woman expresses a deep-set fear of the lover abandoning her, right? You can hear it. And maybe her suspicions are that his other interests will overshadow his love for her. So the great lover king speaks into her heart's primordial chaos. Seeking self-esteem isn't going to help her much. She has someone who adores her as she is, and she doesn't need to glam up, right? She needs to accept it, the love, receive it, the love, and that's a different problem altogether, but there is hope. Listen to the king. Listen to the words that he is using, the tone, and if you can, to switch metaphors, see his healing gaze. Oh, most beautiful of women in the court, if you need to be reassured, if you are still afraid that in some deep, dark recess of my heart, I really am lusting after someone else, then look again. Look thoroughly. My heart is an open book to you. There is nothing clandestine going on. Just come and see. It's as clear as sheep tracks in a muddy field. There's nothing hidden from you. Come and see that my love is for you alone. Wow. I mean, you see what he did? He preached the stuff of the gospel, like the core stuff. The king loves the unlovable. He reaches the unreachable. And this love, this really, really good news is the power to believe. It is his love that's the change agent. So I love you as you are, not what you do, not what you've done, not what you've not done, what you should do, or in spite of what's been done to you or how you feel right now. I love you. I choose you. I select you. And I've named you as my bride. That is what you are now. That's the new and permanent measurement of your glory and worth. Not what others think of you or what even you think of you. So in spite of what she feels, the king loves her as she is. He has not gone away. He's not grazing his sheep somewhere. He seems almost ever present. So it's a brain thing for her. She can't be loved. She can't receive love. Nothing has hurt her more than love gone sour. So that's the protective mechanisms in her brain, your brain, my brain. So he reminds her that he's never going to be difficult for her to find. Look up into my eyes. I'm right here. There are clear, well-worn tracks for her to follow. No tricks, no surprises, no betrayals. But his love is so too good to believe. It's frighteningly different than anything she's ever experienced. Way too much for her to fathom or to be comfortable with, and it is a brain thing. So, listen, she needs a power to make her not only comfortable with the theological concepts, but with actually experiencing it. So hear the king lover. He senses the anxiety and professes her attractiveness to him. I mean, if we could only hear that from the Holy Spirit, right? To him, she's not dark yet lovely. She's lovely. And he loves her dark. So here we go. Hear me again. You're not unworthy at all of the position of royalty. When I consider you, I see a magnificent, gilded, thoroughbred mare, rightly identified with the greatest of kings. You are worthy to be displayed publicly, honored by all who honor the king. Well, there's some cultural differences in there, but the point is the king's love is not just communicated by his presence. He now begins to actually verbalize, reveal his love to her. The king really turns the charm on. He describes the queen as a mare among the chariots of Pharaoh. Well, baby, men, forget the dinner, jewelry, flower, and candies. Just get her attention, get on your knees and say, hey, babe, when I look at you, I think horse flesh. No, don't do that. The point is, beauty is very culturally specific. This was a major compliment back then, and we got to just ride with the flow there. Gledhill says this: the horse is a very sensual animal. No one can stand too close alongside a large, magnificent racehorse or a ceremonial parade horse without sensing something of the vibrancy, the thrill of so much potential, power hidden within those large, glistening flanks. There is and by the way, don't use large glistening flanks either. Trust me on this one. There's a sense of awe at the aesthetics of such power. So our lover senses a similar power within his girl, a kind of animal magnetism. And it appears to unsettle him by her sheer physical proximity. Whew. So dear, I was watching Flightline win Breeders' Cup Classic, and I just thought of you. Don't do that either. No. One commentator speculated, interestingly, that the key here is the word mare. Horses used in warfare were almost always stallions. The presence of a mare in front of all those stallions can be very disruptive. And in particular, there was a battle in 1298 BC between Egypt and Kadesh. And apparently, Kadesh released swift mares into the chariots of Pharaoh, and they went berserk. And one particular Egyptian soldier ran after the mares on foot and killed the mare and to avoid any more distraction and didn't lose the battle. That's the point. But either way you cut it, if you go with that direction, here's the point. The great lover king is merely stating that he's turned on by the woman. Yeah? Imagine for a second how she hears this, or how you might hear it this morning. Would she believe it, or is she just conditioned to not believe that no matter what, because such statements have hurt her in the past? When you walked into this room where you're listening to this video, did you believe that God felt this way about you? And not just an adherence to a written confession of faith. I mean, did you feel it this week, yesterday, today? And now that you're reminded of the stunning, otherworldly nature of it, does it kind of mess you up? Does it dysregulate you emotionally? Aspects of it have to be both calming and terrifying at the same time. That would be human. That would be normal. The God of all the universe, the ultimate perfectionist, by the way, worthy of only the righteous in his audience, in his service, in his embrace, he's picked you to be with him, to be that close to him. Yeah, humanly speaking, how can we ever be really comfortable with that this side of heaven? I mean, have you ever been in a place or a group where you feel like you're the wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time, and if everybody found out your dirty little secrets, they'd be laughing at you or kick you out? Or this is naturally uncomfortable to non-narcissists. Yet the great lover king's attention was on her. You could see it in his eyes. And why? Well, he says, look, beautiful, my beloved. He continues, all the queen's jewelry most naturally adorns your face. It would look awkward on any other face. I will bring you more jewels so that there can be no doubt who you are. And the no doubt is really for her. So who is this loving, patient king? I mean, she still can't quite grasp it. The fractures, the fears are so deep and so prevalent. She's heard this line before, right, from other men, and no doubt fear-based behavior kicks in, fight, flight, freeze. Her idols, all of them have measured her year after year and have given her an F minus. But he, the king, measures her and gives her an A plus. It's troubling and exciting. So, who is she going to believe 10 times out of 10? How could she ever trust an A plus? It hurt too much. The last time somebody said that to her, and it turned out to be an F minus. So you need a transforming power from God that gives us the capacity to believe the unbelievable. And we call that faith. So this is us. This is how we respond too often to God's love when it hits us and we grasp it and we go, oh my gosh, it's too good for me. None of us deserve such a love, and yet none of us are loved any less or more. It's crazy. It's frightening. It's wonderful. I liken it to a roller coaster. So the queen, she's going to react. This is chapter 1, verses 12 to 4. Oh, my heart, see how the king surrounds you. He's drawn near. He is intimately surrounding me, embracing me, caressing me. My heart swells and pounds. It aches in response. My temperature rises, igniting my fragrant aroma. It becomes entwined with his aroma. He's as close to me as my perfume pouch that hangs between my breast. I'm entranced by his scent, choice, intoxicating smells, nard, myrrh, and henna, ravishing me, capturing me in the moment. Look, no matter what has been physically going on before now, it's really clear in the poetry, right, that the king has embraced his struggling beloved. This is some difficult Hebrew in this section. The reference to the king's table is a difficult translation. Obscure wording. It's a hapax legomenon, meaning this is the only place we see that Hebrew word, so we're using our insight to figure out what it means. The sense is, and this is how I translated it, is the king surrounds her. There's a roundness to it, and I think surrounding is perfect. And you get the picture. She's caught up in a moment, in spite of all of her baggage, a miraculous rescue, and she's in his embrace, intimacy. And she's going to regulate some, the transforming love of the great lover king. And if you just picture the bride at first fidgeting a little bit, dysregulated, traumatized, a little scared, but then there's this dramatic shift within her, and she abandons all of the boundaries and throws herself into the romance, into his arms. She's chilled there finally. It's a miracle, empowered by the love or the loving gaze of the king, and fireworks happen beyond her dreams. For a moment, her fears and defensive survival strategies have dissipated, and she's there in the life-giving arms of the king. So check it out. The very next thing that she does in his embrace, or you and I, when I'm in his embrace, my words, thoughts, I got a word for it. It's worship. That's what worship is. That's what worship in spirit and truth really is. That kind of natural response to his love. Okay? All right, we're at the central point of the first movement, the king's exclamation of his love. All right, remember the first movement is constructed in a poetic chiasm. So this places the great emphasis on this particular verse. It's the pinnacle of the chiasm. And you heard me say it earlier, Hinnak, Yapha, Rayati. Hinnak, Yapha. Look at you. Just look at you. Can't you see? You're beautiful. My beloved, just look. I mean, can't you see the repetition? It's guttural. It's not even a full sentence. The king's breath seems to be taken away. He can't even speak. He's acting like a teenager who's trying to communicate his emotions. It's almost uncomfortable and beautiful at the same time. He then says, your eyes are like doves. Look, just for research purposes, I spent some time looking at dove eyes, and I still don't get it. But again, culturally, the point is she would have gotten that. I do shopping training for husbands. Look, So guys, what do you say in those awkward times when your wife comes out with an outfit and says, well, how does it look? Well, okay, write this down because this is what you should say. Wow, dear. Remember the whole eyes and everything. Wow, dear, the color brings out your eyes. It accentuates your curves and yet has a slimming effect on you. Good. All right, keep writing. It makes you look 10 years younger. Well, back then, it was horse thighs and dove eyes. So, Queen beloveds, women and men, are you aware of this cure for shame, for self-hatred? Momentary, no doubt, but hey, it's still a power that right now can make you feel loved by God. This week, did you look at yourself and to some degree hate what you saw, the uglies? Perhaps you've done something horrific and ugly and disgraceful, and you can only see that person and not beyond that choice, that wrong path, that cursed failure. But there is a power that can begin to diminish even your self-hatred. And here's how. By faith, hear God's exclamation of his stunning devotion, his love for you as you are. You couldn't be any more out of sync than you are with him, and she can't handle it. She should plunge in, but it's a brain thing. She deflects. Verse 16, how handsome you are, my lover, right? Eyes off of me, eyes on you. And oh, how charming, our bed is verdant. So what's verdant? Well, it seems like it's saying that they're lying on some decorated formal bed, but I'm going to suggest that they're actually being portrayed lying in a secluded wooded glade somewhere, the metaphorical garden, that safe and intimate place in the Song of Songs, and she's in his arms. And she's there without mask for the moment, without need for mask for a moment. The beams of our house, verse 17, are cedars. The rafters are firs. Think marriage chambers, wedding chambers. Again, a place of secure intimacy, no worries, only loving and being loved. It's what we're jonesing for and looking for in all the wrong places. And then she deprecates, she self-deprecates. I'm a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. And you've probably heard Rose of Sharon as something big deal, but it isn't. It's a poetic merism. Sharon just means a plain. And so she's saying, I'm nothing to write home about. Just wildflowers in the fields and valleys. I'm not carefully groomed, right? I remember one place that I lived, my backyard was riddled with dandelions. They're everywhere, and you couldn't kill them because they just keep growing back. They kept multiplying. So they were pretty, but I'm telling you, they're a hassle. They were dark yet lovely, right? That's what she's saying is, you know, I look good on the outside, but I'm just a weed. And this is what he says. This is verse 2. Like a lily among thorns is my darling among the maidens. So I love it. The king defers. Oh, no, babe. And here I have something. This is a thorn bush that was picked up from the Galilee area. I hope you can see that. It's nasty and it hurts, right? What he says is, and listen to it in the Hebrew, babe, you're a kashoshana among the hahohims. And ladies, which would you prefer to be, a kashoshana or a hahohim? Well, she self-deprecates again, puts the spotlight on him. No. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my lover among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. Shade represents intimacy, protection. This is different than all of the other relationships that hurt her. Nothing has hurt her or us more than relationships. But for her, this embrace is beginning to feel a little different. She can move out of the protective boundaries just a little bit. And she says, the king is a man among boys. And remember, I said that what God did in the Song of Songs is to incarnate already familiar and common love ditties. Here's a Sumerian marriage poem that feels similar, you tell me. It's the Sumerian sacred marriage poem, and the bridegroom is the honeyman of the gods. Listen, the honeyman sweetens me ever, Bridegroom, dear to my heart, goodly is your pleasure, honey sweet. Lion, dear to my heart, goodly is your pleasure, honey sweet. Kiss me. Then she says, he has taken me, and I think she's saying it to herself, he has taken me to the banquet hall, and his banner over me is love. All right, we're going to follow the theme. She's saying that the lover has brought her into this wine hall. Some people say that the point is he's publicly brought me there. He's being seen from everybody with me at his side. His imprimatur is on me because he's there. And that's great security. There's great permanence in that. It's no longer a private thing. It's a public thing. He's hers and she is his and everybody can see it. This is the wonderful mystery of God's love. He proclaims me in the heavenlies as his. It's no secret. My doubts are many, but I only need to look at the tracks of the shepherd, the sheep, to find him again and again and again. And so she says, in a great moment of vulnerability, strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I'm faint with love. His left arm is under my head, his right arm embraces me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse it or awaken love until it so desires. She's kind of thinking, is this really true? Is it just a dream? He has me seated next to him at the grand banquet hall. He's boldly and publicly proclaimed his love for me. Publicly. It's not a joke. I can't understand it still. It doesn't compute. It doesn't fit my experience with love. It's too much for me to believe. Far too wonderful. Far too dangerous. Far beyond my wildest dreams. Somebody get me something sweet because I'm about to faint. It's happened. I've succumbed to my lover's embrace. I'm swept away into his heart. I can't stop it. And we're united in a lover's embrace. For a moment, we're one. For a moment, I am the queen indeed. And I can see that I am the beloved, at least right now. So amazing love. How can it be? Daughters, this is a love that's a dangerous, devouring animal, not to be taken lightly. Settle for no counterfeit, no substitute to this love. Don't mess with it until it so desires. Well, an obscure verse at the end, one of the poetic markers. We're going to unpack that a little bit more next time. And also, by the way, in the next video, I'm going to do something very special. I'm going to read my interpretive version of the Movement 1 from my novella on the Song of Songs. You can get that from Amazon. Just the first movement, and I think you're going to love it. Well, your support and feedback is important to me. Let me know what you're getting out of this series. Bill at gospel-app.com. Follow my podcast, Gospel Rant. Give a testimony, what you're getting out of it. It might encourage somebody else to listen to it. And thanks ahead of time. We'll see you in the next video. Take heart, child of God.